Bloody Butler. Do you like celebrating Halloween? Besides, it really seems to be a promising holiday which is usually full of various mysteries and traditions. The main heroes of our story haven't ever celebrated such a peculiar holiday. Thus, this time they decided to create a new brand custom of their strong friendship. Holly and Mark are two best friends. These people have been companions for over 10 years. They both study at the same university, have a part-time job at the same place, visit the same cafes, etc. In brief, they have really much in common. You would ask, is it just a friendship or something else? I swear to the fact that Holly truly falls in love with Mark, although her companion doesn't really notice that, thinking that they are considered to be only friends. But who knows? Maybe one day everything will change and they will get together. As I'd mentioned before, this Halloween, Mark and Holly decided to celebrate together. They had even booked suites in the mysterious hotel called the Perfectionism. Friends aspired this place to be an ideal for one celebrating such a holiday. Now they're having a mobile conversation. Hi Holly, I would like to ask if you had already packed your baggage. Hello Mark, I'm doing this right now. And you? Yeah, I'm fully ready. That's great. I really regret that I didn't do that before. And could you tell me some information about the hotel? Well, according to the general summary, it is situated in the country near the local forest. We may get there by car. There are another hotels in the area, so this location keeps the mystery of its particular atmosphere. So what are the benefits of it? Undoubtedly, the main pros of this hotel is presence of perfectionism in almost everything. The floor, walls, furniture, and other things. There are also said to be ghosts, mummies, and even werewolves in the hotel and around its territory. But of course, these are considered to be professional and well-organized actors. And who will meet us? Apparently it would be a hotel's butler, Mr. Dark. Did you know him before? No, just learned his name from the forum. Okay. Concerning your summary, it's so general that sounds not bad. You might be totally sure that we'll spend a picturesque Halloween in this hotel. The next day, on the 30th of October, the couple of friends left the city and were already on the way. While Holly was sleeping, Mark was driving the car. They got to the country when the sun had gone below the horizon. The atmosphere of the area totally differed from the cities. Voices of wild birds were heard from afar. Piercing wind blew. The forest was full of withered leaves and tall trees. At first, everything seemed a bit too creepy. Mark and Holly stopped almost near Perfectionism. The butler was already waiting for them. It was a young, well-behaved man who was dressed in a formal suit consisting of white shirt, black tie, trousers, and shoes. His hair was dark. In addition, he was wearing glasses. On his shoulder was sitting a black cat with yellow eyes, which immediately attracted friends. When the butler saw Mark and Holly, he smiled broadly. His teeth were almost shining. In a split second, the screech was suddenly heard from afar. I'm already used to it, said the butler without any shadow of worry. This worker seemed to be a bit strange from Mark's point of view, so he tensed up. Evening, Mr. Snug. That was Mark. And Mrs. Ulai? Holy? Yeah, I'm Mr. Dark, but you can't just call me Mr. Butler. What a promising surname, Mark thought, although was silent. Good evening, Mr. Butler, the compagnons answered. The staff, or perfectionism, is glad that you will spend Halloween in our hotel, as I'm one of the main members of it. In the case of having questions, you can always apply to me. Okay, said Holly. That's really good, sir, replied Mark. My first question had already appeared. The butler squinted, although was looking at the visitor without taking his eyes off. Ready to answer Mr. Snake's question without hesitation, Mr. Dark replied and eventually started to smile broadly again. My friend Holly said that there are actors who play the roles of mummies, werewolves, and other mysterious creatures. Will they be able to create a suitable and real Halloween atmosphere? However, not just a nice performance which will not seem to be real. Mr. Dark didn't stop smiling like a scared cat. Apparently this question wasn't hard for him. Mr. Snake, nobody ever complained about the service of this hotel, answered the butler. The cat sitting on his shoulder meowed approvingly. When the butler opened the gates, Holly approached him. At that time, Mark was a hat, surveying the territory of the hotel. Our ritual will soon be in effect, won't it? Asked Holly, putting money into Mr. Dark's pocket. Butler was still smiling broadly. Surely, Mrs. Ulay. The marriage tradition will be carried out right today. Mr. Snack won't be able to deviate from my tricks. Believe me, I am a true professional. As we aspire, and now we may even state, Holly falls in love with Mark. Apparently she can make him love her as an attractive girl, not only as a friend. But the holiday of Halloween is literally full of various customs and even piece of magic. One of the most widespread traditions is connected with the ritual of chestnut hunt. At a majority of Halloween parties, the first guest who finds it would be the first to marry. And that is gonna be Holly. But how this tradition will influence the feelings of Mark? You would definitely ask, and that's an interesting issue. And the answer to it will be figured out at the end of the story. Just remember that this is not just a hotel. It is a source of mysterious and fear. When the friends walked closer to the hotel, Mr. Dark stopped smiling and closed the gates, having no smile either. The interior of perfectionism was equipped according to the theme of the game called chess. When Mark was excitedly staring at the floor in the form of a black and white chessboard, somebody followed him and suddenly grabbed by the neck in order to bite him. Mark didn't have any opportunity to scream, those eventually started to wave hands insistently. Mark woke up. It was just a dream. He got up from the bed of the suit and looked around. He noticed the fang lying on the floor. Then Mark touched his neck. He had figured out it was bleeding. A youth was sitting remembering all the events happened the previous day on 31st of October. It was really hard for him to do that. Stop. It seems to me that I had made Holly a proposal. Although if I was deadly sick, how could I do that? In front of his eyes appeared a figure of bright yellow eyes that was hypnotizing him. Another fragment greatly differed from the previous one. The butler of the hotel leads Holly and him to their suites, gives them an invitation for a dinner for that day and a breakfast for the 31st of October. Something wrong happens here, he thought. After leading Mark and Holly, the butler goes to his room, which is downstairs. He closed the door with a key and puts his black cat on the bed. Then he approached to the wood chest, opened it, pulls out a large metal hammer, and says, "The mischief is gonna start." His crazy smile slowly turned into a loud psychopathic laugh. The 31st of October, early morning, Mark wasn't sleeping for the last few hours, waiting for breakfast. He didn't have a desire to eat at all, but to know all the events which happened with him the previous day. That was his biggest deal. Then Mark remembered that should be near Holly's suite approximately at 9 a.m. Young couple had decided to meet there. When Mark was already near her suite, he knocked on the door. In response, he heard 2 knocks. The door was closed. Well, apparently it's better to wait for her in the cafe. Therefore, Mr. Snack went there. When he turned behind suddenly, noticed a mummy. It was really huge and creepy. What an excellent actor, Mark thought. A bit later, on his way to the cafe, Mark saw Butler, who was literally in an enthusiastic mood and probably hadn't noticed him at all. But when he caught sight of Mark, his facial expression had changed. He was even surprised. "Good evening, Mr. Dark. Did you see Holly?" The butler approached him and smiled broadly as he usually does. "Of course I saw her." "You came to this hotel with her?" "That seems to be a good joke, but I need to find her." Mr. Dark was silent. "Okay, I'll probably return to our suite." The butler got a bit closer to Mark. "Oh, I don't think it's a good idea." "Why?" The butler started becoming nervous. "Because she's sleeping now. Yesterday she asked me not to enter her room at this time." Mark remembered that 2 knocks and tensed up. "I don't believe you." Suddenly Mr. Dark started laughing loudly. At first it seemed he would not be eager to stop. However, his facial expression became stern. "I always tell the truth." The butler got even closer to Mark. The cat sitting on his shoulder started looking at Mark's eyes attentively without turning away. Eventually, Mark remembered that sight. "Your cat," he said to the butler yesterday, "it was trying to hypnotize me." Mr. Dark's smile was almost burning with craziness. "Not only aspired, but successfully did it. And the result is visible. I need to see her and do not need your allowance." "Do you really think like that? If yes, turn around." Mark quickly turned around and understood that was standing in the locked circle of real mummies, vampires, ghosts, and werewolves. Fascinating actors, aren't they? Mark was almost in shock. He tried to get out of the circle, however, was powerless. "Phobby," said the butler to Vampire. "You do not achieve much opportunities to taste the human's blood, although now we will correct it." Vampire, with only one thing, jumped on Mark and knocked him to the floor. Mark was resisting strongly. In a split second, the vampire left a huge scar on his face. The youth didn't know how to get to hold his suit and survive in general. The butler was laughing. Wanna see the one because of you are in the hotel? Okay, you will see her Holy. In some minutes, the mummies brought the dismembered body of the dead Holy. Tears flowed from Mark's eyes. He started shaking, but couldn't get to the body of his friend. The butler approached his face and looked deeply in Mark's eyes. You know, here's something like a museum. You can look, but not touch. Was pleased to meet you, Mark, said the butler and fatally hit Mark's head with his metal hammer. When the youth fell on the floor, his friend, Mr. Dark, repeated, Nobody ever complained about the service of this hotel.